session. This is going to be a 2-hour session. We've got 4 speakers today. My name is Peter Wu. I'm going to be your moderator, and I'm going to be speaking third about my project. We're going to be focused pretty heavily on the hardware side today, but we're also going to be talking about software integration from one of our speakers at the end. There's a wide variety of projects that we're showing today, from low-cost, compact, low-resource to high-cost, full-size, high-resource. And so we're gonna see all those things. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first speaker is Felipe Bessa. Felipe comes to us from Brazil, and he's done a really fascinating Piper Seneca project with a lot of home fabrication, and he's going to start off by telling us about that. So welcome, Felipe.
Cool. Thank you. Good day, everybody. I'm glad you all are here and be seeing our presentation. Hope I can cope with all your expectations, so feel free to ask questions at the end of the session. So this is what I plan to cover today. So a little bit about me, a little bit of the prototypes that I came throughout the years, and simulator components, the panel and the instruments setup, force feedback yoke, the electrical trim, the GPS stack that I have, and finally the simulator panel structure with the undercarriage and the fuselage itself. So that's me, flying a Piper Cherokee. So I'm Felipe Bessa, flying all the way from the southwest of Brazil, a city called Cascavel. I'm a computer engineer, and I did the PPL in South Africa when I was living in Cape Town. Then I moved back to Brazil and continued with the CPL license. So I'm halfway through. This I was doing one of the long-haul type of navigations there. Then, back in 2011, I decided to start building the simulator. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just wanted to build like a simulator. And it's old times that I like to fly FSX back to the 98, 2000, 2004. And then I decided to do the sim. So here's the very first prototype. So I got that at, I remember these pack of Black Label beer. I bought that. We had a braai at home, and I drank all the bottles there. And that's what I thought, okay, why not use these to be my first prototype? So that's why I got all those round circles then, switches, because I did buy them on the internet, like all the way from the UK and stuff, but I've never seen that working on the simulator. So I eventually got that hooked up to a Leo card, and it was so nice to see turning the encoder and see the HSI moving there. So I said, okay, I have to go with that, and I want to be like a proper simulator. But at that time, I just wanted to have a Cessna 172. That's what you see on the screen. But you know that we never are happy with what we have. We always want to go bigger and bigger. So that's my second prototype, where I went to I lived in this apartment, and I walked out of the door and saw these picture frame on the garbage, and I say, why not use these for the second prototype, right? So I got the same encoders, the same switches, but I got new switches, which is the overhead switches there. So that's when I decided to go to a twin engine type of simulator. But I didn't know which one to use. I was still testing with the Baron, but then eventually I ended up doing the Seneca. Why Seneca? Seneca is largely used in Brazil, especially the Senecas 1 and 2, with the flight schools there. It's, as I heard, is a good plane for maintenance and for flight schools there. It's a strong one. And also because Embraer in Brazil, back in time, they were in partnership with Piper Aircraft. building them in the national soil, right? And I said, why not? So if in future this sim should go to a place that is not at my home, it could be used for training, possibly, right? So that's when I decided going with the Seneca. So here is my first sketch. I did that on Photoshop, but then I moved to Corel. I didn't know how to use Corel, so everything that, all the tools I learned on the way. So I got that on Photoshop, and it was horrible. Then I moved to Corel. I did some sketches and stuff, but then I got it plotted with a real size and put to styrofoam. So that way I could see the size of the cockpit and how it would be if I had that cutting laser and stuff. So that's the very first one. And I said, no, this is the plane I want to go. But I got other problems there because there wasn't any gauge available on the net, on the internet, like for Seneca V. So I ended up finding the Sim Innovations Air Manager, and that's when I started building and coding the gauges. So I started with all the engine cluster side, and then I moved to the rest of the panel. So it's all my codes, and the graphicals are all made by myself. And Air Manager now, it's got extensively used on my sim, controlling the various hardwares and lights and switches and stuff there. So I also got, apart from the gauges, I get the engine instrument, which is a digital readings of the engines, and also fuel quantity, voltages, and all set of configurations that you can fly with the plane. So I got that also customized. The clock, I also got that customized to my project, plus the annunciators, which was also made from scratch to show all the failures and lights that is needed on the cockpit. My configuration, I've got 3 Raspberries there, 2 for the pilot side, so it's a 24-inch LCD plus a 10.1, which is the right bottom corner there. You'll see the vacuum and temperature gauges, plus another one to the pilot side. I also use those Raspberries there to control certain functions on the system, especially on the pilot side. So all the clock, the DME gauge, and the engine instrument is driven by Raspberry through Air Manager. The other one, which drives the lower side LCD, drives all the lights for the sim. And the co-pilot runs the encoders there for the co-pilot side. So this is just a quick video that you can see Arduino used to control the encoders. At this video, I didn't have the accelerator there, but you can have the accelerator to speed up your turn. It's pretty straightforward to do that, and it's very precise. I was really unhappy with the other card I had. I was missing a lot of pulses there and no precision at all, right? And I liked the way doing that. And I can play that, the same instrument works for Flight Simulator and Prepare plus X-Plane, so it's just the same one. And here also the clock, so I got that customized. So the clock, there is no action on the sim because I don't need that. It's purely the instrument, so the chronometer and local time, Zulu time, and the rest of the functions there. Here is the engine instrument. Oops, sorry. I've got like a 6-position switch and I can show the various informations from the engine, like RPM, TIT. This part is configurations that you can run your flight. So if you're on a cruise speed there, you can set the airplane to 60% power, so you know what is 60% in terms of what readings you need to have on a TIT, RPM, and the rest of that. It also shows the fuel quantity, outside and inside temperature, all the electrical components, battery, and the vacuum. So it's a very good instrument there to complement the analogic gauges. Bezels. The bezels are self-made, acrylic made. Back in time, it was about 2 years ago. 3D printing wasn't that easy to get back in Brazil. Very expensive. A bezel like that would cost me at least like $15 each, and I have like 34 on my sim, so it would be like a fortune there. And I decided going with acrylic. So as you know, acrylic with a laser cut is a 2D layout. So I got like a flat file to scratch the edges and make the slope. And with sandpaper, I could smooth the surface, and I use polyester mass, I think it's called like that, to remove the joints of the 3 cuts of acrylic that I had. I sandpaper that again, very smooth, and then I black painted with spray. So as you can see, the result of one of the encoders type of bezel. I quite liked the result. It was beyond my expectation, but it took me like 2 hours each bezel. So times 34, you see how long I spent there sandpapering these bezels. The switches, I got these Margirius switch. It was the closest I could find to look like the Senecas. But the Senecas, of course, has all the background is taller, but that's what I could get close. And I got a label maker at Amazon, which prints white on clear. Was really nice, and it glues nicely, and even if you keep switching flipping the switch, it won't come off on your hand. So there are like I think out of 24 switches there. So it was really nice to have those label makers. It's a $10 label maker there, so it made all the work there. Down there is the overhead switches, so all the engine lights and left and right engine switches, it's on the top of the shell. I also made the landing lights, so it's coded in Arduino. It's driven by that Raspberry. It's coded in Raspberry, driven by Air Manager. Fuel selector is also driven by Arduino, made of acrylic, so engraved. I used a linear potentiometer. I'm not sure if you can see, like in the middle there is a small magnet which attached to the lever of the potentiometer. So when I move that, I hear the click of the off position there. So I know that it's on the off position. I customized the code because moving from on to crossfit, it was going through the off position. If you do that on the plane, Carenado, it will shut down you cut the fuel there, and it will shut down the engine. So I put like a timer there. So if it only shuts down if it stays in 3 seconds in that position, on the off position. So I can move around easily there. And showing the switch for the landing light, it's a straightforward 2 LEDs board, and controlled also via Air Manager. The throttle quadrant is from Precision Flight Controls. I quite liked the layout of that. but I didn't want to use their console because it wouldn't fit on my project. So I pretty much replicated the way they do that with the linear potentiometer. I tried with the springs, but it was too strong to move the lever when you set the power properly during flight. So I said I need to get something lighter there. So I came up with this crazy idea of using those elastic wires there, and it moves. So I could untighten the lever, so it's very easy to move forward and back. So I can set the positions. I was afraid of if I want to go from 75% to 70% power set, that I would overshoot or undershoot the positions there. I didn't like that. So this is my last version, and I'm really happy with that result. Then I got my vertical console. It's made of various cuts of wood glued together, so I could make the internal spaces there. I used what is called like wood mass to sandpaper and make a single surface. I got that painted with, in Brazil it's called liquid rubber. So if you can take it out, the paint, and strengthen that like rubber. And got the air vent and cowl flaps levers made of aluminum, connected to a 12-position switch, although I use only 3 of that. Plus the prop sync switch connected to an LED to show you it's on/off. Also interfaced with Raspberry controlling them. And I use the same label maker to make the labels there. Annunciators also made of acrylic. I got the boards from PC Flights. The label, I got the first one using a simple label maker, but the second version of that was printed using a UV printer. So it's a white acrylic at the bottom, and then the print on the top. So I made the design of those of the labels and got that printed on the sim. The force feedback yoke mechanism. As you know, I do the real flying, and I never wanted. I was afraid that I would give up if flying with a simple yoke, feeling nothing there. So I decided, no, I must have a yoke. But I also didn't want to go with the options out there, and I said, okay, I will do that myself. So I got the project from Ian. It's a BFF simulation cards. He's based in the UK. He shared the project there, all the design of the yoke made of wood, and I translated that to a metal frame. So I put all on 3D. That's when I started also playing around Fusion 360. So another learning curve for me, because I've never used 3D software before that. Motors came from Italy. I did like all crazy ways to get them in Brazil, because as you may know, like customs in Brazil is very complicated, and import them directly, it's also complicated. So very good friends out there brought and flew it to me, and it got to my lab there. So it's made of aluminum, 0.9, laser cut, machine bent. I send the company, they do like professional metal cuts there, and they also have a bent machine. So I gave them bent here with 45, 90 degrees, and they gave me exactly what I needed. So this is how it's assembled. The two motors. I have these little, I forgot how to say that, but just to make the 180 position there. It's 155 travel length. Also, there was another thing that I was really concerned because I didn't want like a short travel of, let's say, 1,200 or even I see out there like 800 travel size. It's pretty strong. It's really nice. Get all the sensation of vibration, forces. It reproduces takeoffs, landings, gear up, gear down, flap down, tacks, full power, prop wash. It's everything there. You can customize that to you. I've got a Seneca V yoke replica. This guy from Romania. Also, I made all these crazy ways to get that to Brazil. It flew to Dubai, Brazil, UK, and eventually it got there. Thanks to my friends at the company. So everybody that was flying around, I was trying to find someone to bring something for me. Then, as you know, you like to, you never satisfied to what you have. I got these trim wheels, and I said, why not having an electrical trim? So again, with the real flying, I like to fly an airplane with an electric trim because sometimes you even have these levers on the ceiling of the airplane. It's not nice. And I said, I will have an electrical trim myself. So it's a Seneca II 1975 trim. The wheel was adapted to use a belt. I did a reduction gear to connect to the potentiometer, so I could get all the turns of the wheel to the potentiometer. Also from Ian BFF, and it does all the AP following electrical trim on the yoke, plus the manual mode. So here's a quick video. I also used the original marker there to show me the position. So it's a 10-turn wheel there. So it goes all the way forward and back. Here, with the action on the yoke, it's directly driven by the card, the BFF card, which goes directly to the motor there and action on that. The GPS stock, I wanted the GTN 750, and I coded the CAP 140 and the GNC 255B. Here's how it looks the case. So it's 8.9-inch LCD, a self-made SLA 3D printed bezels. As I said, I've got these GNC 255B Garmin Navcom, plus the Bendix King autopilot. Then I've got a second structure, I forgot to bring that to show these guys, printed in 3D. So the back case is now 3D printed because I will have two Arduinos inside, so I don't have that bunch of wires getting out of the case, so I will have only three, one for the Arduino Leonardo, Mega, plus the touch panel. The undercarriage, I was very concerned of moving my sim around and the mobility of that. I lived in a 3-bedroom apartment, and I knew that one day I would move out, so I needed like a proper solution to move my sim out without disassembling everything. I was tired of that already because I had like a previous move and things got broken in the meantime. So it's made of a metal structure, two sections, one for the main panel and one for the fuselage in the cabin, right? It's 10 centimeters from the floor, so the rudder paddles can fit there. Here's the entire structure there, 5 wheels in each one, so I can easily move them around. The seats, it's from a HB20 Hyundai car. I got that redone with a beige cover. That's my little dog there, which followed me on every mission on every day. So every morning I was taking him for a ride, and I was talking to him, what is the mission of the day? Okay, we need to go to the woodworker. And then the day after, okay, the leather guy. And the other day, okay, we need to go to the store and buy some nuts, screws, and stuff. So he was always with me there. So I took this picture of him. Then the simulator structure, it's a laser cut, 6, 9, and 3 mm width there. I had to do that way because I didn't have access to a proper woodworker because I was living in São Paulo and it's, everything is expensive there and it's far away. But now in the city that I'm living there, it's easy to do these woodwork. So at that time, I decided to do the laser cut so I could do that myself at home. So here's now the structure, the back side, the front side, and I also got the glare shield, also laser cut, so I cut all of them at home. That's the laundry there, so I was cutting everything in the laundry. Then I got the foam top, leather, and I got it finally done. So here's another picture of the fuselage, and I got them designed in 3D as well, so I could confirm all the cuts, so I could make it just a once-off thing. So it's covered with a white wrap. It's the same kind of wrap that they put on the cars, you know, so I could get that done. That is a video, I don't know why it's not playing, showing the lights, internal lights. It's controlled by 2 dimmers, so you have independent pilot and co-pilot lights in there. Rudder pedals from McBarry cockpits in Brazil, and carpet throughout the sim there. Here's the last picture I've got, so there's just a few to go, but it's pretty much done. Thank you. I would like to thank my wife back home to have supported me, my family, friends around the world, and it's a very good community. Everybody helps everybody, so special thanks to all. Thank you.